Sase siqukumbela ke lencoko yethu mandithi eGauteng sifikile asahlala kakhulu safumana amaqabane afana nabo Comrade Ngeleza. I remember we were 5 of us. Umita had to be left behind because he was given a mission to go back to Port Elizabeth. We traveled by train. A train in Igebe Sithe sa up to a village in Ekufutshane naseSwaziland, kwelicala lase South Africa, and we had to travel for the whole day to go to a village in Swaziland, where we crossed and we were received by a lady called Mandombi. Mandombi was one of the underground activists, the ANC, where we slept and proceeded the following day to Mbabane, where we met a comrade by the name of Allen, a colored comrade from East London. From there, we didn't stay long. So proceeded to what is called Loma Ashe. We were driven by a Land Cruiser to Loma Ashe. We met some other comrades there, and then we proceeded to Loma Ashe. Loma Ashe, we slept overnight, and we proceeded to Maputo. From Maputo, we proceeded to Zambia, where we were processed, taken off biographies. And then I think we stayed in Zambia for about a week. I must mention here, we found some of the old comrades, Belutuli detachment, who really looked after us. I'm mentioning this because kulama xesha sikuyo indaba yediscipline embuthweni ayisekho. These comrades never said no, sibancinci kubo. They were cooking for us, although we had tents to cook. So we proceeded to get ukuya Angola, where I went to Kibashe. Kibashe was a transit camp for the ANC then. That was around about December 1978, for the first time to have Christmas without the family. We had to get used to that. From Kibashe, I think one was fortunate because, as I said, Kibashe was a transit camp. We didn't stay for more than a week. We proceeded to the south of Angola in a place called Ekatenge in the south of Angola, which was a big training camp of the African National Congress. We used to call it the University of the South, where I did my basic training in military combat work, in tactics, in engineering, in topography, a lot of these other things, military things. From there, after 6 months, we finished our training and we graduated, which was a big day for us because we were addressed by Comrade Oliver Tambo. And he came and he named our detachment, the Munkada detachment. You had a number of comrades from PE, about Comrade Shoes, Bonabo Tobegam Julian, Abo Nomam, Abo Gibson Jenje. They were before us in other company because we came a month or two after them. They already started their training. From there, we were chosen what was called the Group of 40, where we were supposed to go to the German Democratic Republic by then to go and get a specialized training. We went there as a group of 40. We were supposed to be in the German Democratic Republic for 6 months. We did our training. Some of us specialized in engineering. Some of us specialized in topography. Some of us specialized in guerrilla warfare. And then we came back after 6 months. That was now in 1978, around June, July 1978. And as we know that when we left the country with the aim of getting this skill so that we can come back and fight the regime and defend our people. And in fact, we said that we're just gonna go there for some few months, get training and come back, which was not the case. That's how raw we were before we were educated by the ANC as to what is the meaning of a revolutionary struggle. So on this day, when we came back from the GDR, the same day we were taken to a transit camp. Others went to Kibashe in the north of Angola. Some of us were taken to a transit camp called Funde, which was meant for all those who were supposed to be prepared to go home. It was really an honor for one or for a cadre to be chosen to be deployed back into South Africa to fight the Boers. So we went to this camp. To my surprise, and I was so happy, the following day, the car that brought us the previous day came back, and I was called to the admin. We used to call it admin, where the camp commander, camp commissar were staying. And I was told to go and pack my bag because I'm going back to Luanda. Everybody was clapping hands that no, Dan is going back home. To my surprise, when I got to Luanda, I was briefed by the regional commissar, Comrade Mike Temba, that it was a mistake for me to go to the camp. I have been chosen to go on the outskirts of Luanda to open up a camp which was to be used as a transit camp. And this camp later on, it became, I would call the famous camp, Vienna camp, where what was called Mkatashinga started. Katashinga was the people who were defying the movement. They had their own grievances. So we went to this camp. It was myself, one comrade Ralph from Johannesburg, comrade Mpho from Johannesburg, the three of us. When we got into this camp, it was a big yard. It was with an orchard, I would say, but there were only mango trees in this camp. There was one double-story house, and there was a place which we could say it used to be for chickens. And within the yard, there was a place which used to be for pigs. But I stayed in this camp. I became the commander of the camp. Mpho became the commissar, and Ralph became the chief of logistics. We went into this camp for quite some time, and we turned those pigsties into living quarters for the comrades who were coming, because it was a transit camp for those who are coming from home. They got prepared before they go to the camps. I stayed in Vienna for about 3 years. And in 1981-82, I was chosen to go to the German Democratic Republic again for an intelligence course. It was a 3-month course. On coming back, there was a new camp commander in Vienna. I was asked to go with Comrade Chris Ani, the late, may his soul rest in peace, and one General Comrade Lennox Landum. We used to call him Umnahwane, to go and open the Eastern Front. We all knew that Angola had just gotten its independence. I mean, when we went to Angola, Angola was just, when I arrived there, it was just 4 years old in its independence. And there were all these bandits from UNITA, FNLA, who were supported by America and South Africa. So we felt that for us to be in a position to open up routes going to South Africa, we need to assist the Angolans. We went to open this Eastern Front, and the comrades were there all know what was happening in the Eastern Front, where we had to fight side by side with FAPLA, that is the army of Angola, to engage the enemy, which was UNITA. And we had really gallant fighters from our side when we were fighting them. I must say we did lose some comrades, but we fought gallantly with UNITA. They knew when Umkhonto we engaged them, they would know the difference at Umkhonto we. From there, I was also called back to Luanda. I remember I traveled in a cargo plane. I was sitting next behind the pilot. When I got to Luanda, I was told that I am chosen to go and work in Botswana. So this was in 1983, around October, November 1983. And then I went to work in Botswana. I became the regional commander of Botswana, responsible for this thing, planning operations inside the country, infiltrating cadres with weapons, getting weapons from Lusaka and arranging DLBs for the cadres inside the country. We worked in Botswana for quite some time until 1985. We were having a meeting, planning operations, but then because we were illegal, we had to have our meetings in the bush. Unfortunately, some peasants, I would say, use that name, saw us, and they went to report to the police. We were arrested by the Botswanans. Botswana, of course, one thing that we liked about them, they would not deport us back to South Africa. all they would do would to deport us to Zambia. We were then deported to Zambia, and after that, I was chosen again to go and do an intelligence course in Russia for 6 months. And coming back, I was deployed back in Botswana again. Now I became the military intelligence head in Botswana, working with Comrade Nalit, Comrade Tinso, the Deputy Minister of Defense, Tabang Makwetla. And we continued working, infiltrating people inside the country, working side by side with our political department, infiltrating their cadres and material for them. So whilst working in Botswana, of course, we used to take turns in going to brief the leadership in Lusaka. We were illegal in Botswana. We had no passports, but we had to travel. So we had a route that we had to open in Botswana. The road was from Zambia in a town called Livingstone. We had to cross the Zambezi. We used the dinghies, those boats that had to be inflated to cross the river. So at this particular time, I was chosen by the Political Military Council in Botswana to go and give a report in Zambia on what we've done, what we're doing, what is it that we need. So as we were traveling, it was at night, around about 12 midnight. Because there were comrades who were working at the river in Livingstone. They were based there. They would cross with us because they knew the route. They would come and fetch us from the side of Botswana near Kazungola. There's a border post called Kazungola in Botswana. It connects Botswana with Zambia. So as we were traveling, we don't know, possibly we might have disturbed a buffalo because it was a wild area. There's a national park there. We find buffaloes, lions, and all these things. So from nowhere, I think we were about 12 or 15. It came, and I can't remember what happened. I found myself on the ground, and after thinking, I thought that possibly it was just opening a way because it just got me. I fell down, it ran away. So the comrades had to stop the file. The file is the line that we were marching with. And then we had to take a decision because in that area, the South African Defence Force used what we call spotter planes. They would use spotter planes during the day to check for illegal people. And those illegal people were ourselves. So I had to take a decision right there to tell the leader of the group that no, instead of the whole group getting into troubles, you can leave me here and you go drop the comrades in Livingstone, and then possibly in the afternoon you can come back for me. Because the problem was that if they are delaying them, it means by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, they will still be traveling to Zambia, and they're standing in danger of being discovered by these spotter planes. So one comrade by the name of Tabo volunteered to stay with me. I was bleeding on my right hand, on my right side of the body, on my waist. So we had to stop the bleeding. So we sat there from 12 o'clock. There was nothing to eat, no water, and we had to take cover because by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, we could hear and see the spotter planes then. But we stayed there from that 12 o'clock, and the comrade said to come back at about 4 in the afternoon on that same day. So we had to wait. By 7 or 8 o'clock. We started marching to Zambezi, where we managed to cross to Zambia. And from Livingstone, I was taken to a hospital and where I was given stitches. And after that, we had to arrange for me to travel to Lusaka. They booked a plane ticket for me, but I missed the plane, the short of it. I had to travel by train. The train was packed, those third class carriages. It was packed with the Zambians going to Lusaka. It was even difficult for me to go to the bathroom. But then I decided to go to the bathroom. When I came back, the seat that I was sitting in was already occupied. So I had to travel standing from that train with this new wound, and then reached Zambia the following day at 6 o'clock. And I managed to go to the clinic We had a clinic in Zambia where I was also looked after by ANC nurses then. So I am saying this is what possibly most of us had gone through. As I said when I started this, that ours was not for gain, it was a noble cause. But then again, I need to mention that when I recuperated, I had to go back to continue with the work that we were doing in Botswana using the same route. We traveled with the same route, went back to Botswana, and we went again in Botswana until in 1988, when the house that I was staying in was attacked by the South African Defense Force, where we lost a comrade and 3 Botswana women were killed in that. And unfortunately, when I was trying to inform the comrades of what happened around Gaborone, I was arrested by the Botswana police, and of course, I had to be taken back to Zambia. The one thing I remember after this incident is that the commissioner of police, who was called Mr. Hirschfeld, called me to his office to say, then that time my name was not Dan, it was Tando Petin. Tando, will you please, when you get to Lusaka, tell your commanders that people like yourselves, they shouldn't be sent back to Botswana because we are being harassed by the Boers, that we are harboring you. And my response was that Mr. Esfeld is going to be difficult for me. I'm a trained soldier. I'm a freedom fighter, and ours is to fight for our country. For me to go to my commanders and tell them that I cannot go back to Botswana, it's going to be difficult. But the short of it is that because of the nature of the situation in Botswana, I could not go back to Botswana. I had to go to Zimbabwe. Before going to Zimbabwe, the ironic thing that happened was that when I got to Zambia, I got to know that apparently there were also suspicions as to why was I the only survivor of the raid, which means that I had to to explain as to how did I survive. I remember I stayed in Zambia for quite some time, not knowing whether I'll be going back to Botswana or not, until I had to approach the former president of the country, Comrade Jacob Zuma, who was then the head of intelligence of security in Lusaka, because I was told that my case is being handled by them. But unfortunately, I couldn't get any positive response until I asked the leadership that my wife from Botswana is studying in Zimbabwe. I need to go and join him in Zimbabwe. And in conclusion, I want again to repeat that what this thing Che Guevara said, the quote that I started with, it still resonates up to this day, that we cannot be sure of having something to live for unless we are willing to die for it. And when I say this, I'm not referring only to myself. We know quite a number of young comrades. The Somon Matlangus passed away. Abu Tabang Bukulane was killed in Maputo. They were fighting for this freedom. So those who are surviving need to always remember whatever they do, people lost their lives. People gave their lives for this freedom. We didn't care what happens to us as long as we knew that at some point we're going to reach our destinations. If we have to pay the ultimate price, so be it. So those who are living today in this freedom, they need to always remember there are people who gave their ultimate price to see to it that South Africa is free. I thank you, Mpumakaba.
Thank you very much, Dan, for this detailed information of the sacrifices made by you, not only you, but many others, to ensure that we are liberated. Viewers and people of Mpumakapa, you've heard for yourself what have loads of others gone through. And not only in the bush, but from his upbringing, he has experienced quite a lot of hardship. He experienced growing up and facing forceful removal. He saw in his school days, whilst he was supposed to be learning, but there was something wrong happening. He did not enjoy his youthfulness because his father couldn't get leave. He had to go and stand in for his father during school holidays. It's a life that many of us have never heard of. It's an experience that many of us have gone through. This is what Buden has gone through to fight for this liberation. We are going into the month of July, where we are encouraging people to sacrifice. It was not only Nelson Mandela who sacrificed, you heard it for yourself. It comes also and share with us the process of going through training. The first time he spent time without his family, where spending Christmas without his family, which is a very sentimental period, as we all know. He goes to share the experiences that he went to have in Germany, Russia, and many other places. But what is coming out is the risk of his life when he was not only fighting the Boers, but survived a buffalo in the bushes. That's the kind of sacrifice that these heroes of ours went through. When we think and enjoy this freedom, when we complain and cry about the challenges we are faced with, let us remember that, as he also mentioned, some died for this freedom. They made the most important sacrifice. They died. They did not only get scratched or got tear gassed or got lashes, but they died, lost their lives in the process of achieving this freedom. I wish to thank Buden, I wish to thank Bomakapa TV and viewers for watching us in this program of ours, trying to revive the heritage. We're not talking about politics here. We're talking about the real things that were experienced by real people in pursuing this freedom. Let us appreciate them. Let us show respect for them. Let us, by all means, remember what they went through. And we all know how these challenges were facing us. Today, we are sitting and enjoying the benefits of this freedom. Thank you very much, Buden. Thank you to the viewers. Let us remember that we are still in a pandemic and we are on level 4. Let us adhere to the necessary requirements. Let us ensure we protect our families. Let us ensure we put on our face masks, we wash our hands, and we keep the distance and avoid unnecessary visitings. Thank you very much.